Welcome to the Growth and Influence podcast. My name is Andrew Schultz, and I'm your host. And I'm excited to have you here today because we're going to be talking about a topic that aligns perfectly with the original intended theme for this podcast, which is the overlap of marketing and coaching and personal development. Two trends that I think are already very important, but are poised to be like mega trends in the future of our economy and our lives. And so we're going to talk about an article that was recently written in the New York Times that it was written like as this expose that revealed all the scummy underside of the coaching industry, that it kind of claims that the coaching industry is a place where people just do predatory things to take people's life savings and give them nothing in return. And so we're going to talk about three things today. We're going to talk about the insinuations that the New York Times made. Number two, the potential for misbehavior or bad actors in the coaching industry. And number three, we're going to talk about whether or not I think regulation is right for the coaching industry, because that was one of the main things that the article kind of claimed, was that you needed more regulation, that would fix everything. And the problem is that it was unregulated. And so those are the three things we're going to talk about. And I'm glad you're here. Honestly, it's 9:00 at night, which is late for me. And I am recording this because I am doing like a podcast every day kind of thing. We'll see how long I can do that, because that's a little heavy, but I would love to post every day. Welcome to the Growth and Influence podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Schultz, and this podcast is about the fascinating convergence of two massive movements or principles in our economy: persuasive marketing and selling, and personal development. The principles that lead to personal growth and happiness are not always aligned with the principles of persuasive marketing, and yet almost anything that can serve people and the world has to be marketed. We're in search of answers. Let's go. Let's talk about that first topic. The insinuations that this article made were basically that the coaching industry was full of predators. It didn't really talk about good things that happen in the coaching industry. It just talked about the fact that there's no regulation, and it told the story of a woman who had a normal job, had some savings, and quite a bit of savings. I think it was like $40,000 or something. And she went into the coaching industry, wanted to leave her job, become a coach. She joined a certification program, and she did not feel like she was really learning what she was supposed to learn or growing in the ways that she was supposed to grow. She spent the money, didn't feel like at the end of the day that she had become a coach and was able to coach other people. And when she raised this concern, the people that, were kind of coaching her and running this program just put the blame back on her and said, it's your fault, you're not working hard enough, you need to spend more money and work harder to become the coach that you want to become. And she ultimately lost all of her savings. She has certifications and things, but she doesn't know, like, she's not really getting clients as a coach, and doesn't know how to go about that, or doesn't feel confident doing that. They shared a couple supporting stories that kind of backed up this portrayal of the coaching industry as this predatory place. So those are the insinuations. The second thing we wanted to explore is the potential for bad actors in the coaching industry. So as I think about the story that, I just told you, and the things that the New York Times article said, I think it's hard to make a judgment call on what happened there, and whether or not she was the victim of bad actors or dishonest people who were just running a program that didn't give her any value and took all her money, or if the New York Times just went and found somebody who was just not really suited to be a coach and who had spent a lot of money trying to be a coach and then had, ultimately failed and was now blaming the industry. It honestly, it could have been either one and ended up with the same story written by the New York Times with the angle that they had and the axe to grind and how they're, given the fact that their whole purpose here was to raise controversy and to get people upset. And so here's the reality. Are there bad actors in the coaching industry? For sure. I know I know of honest businesses that they do what they say what they do, but I don't like them, and I don't think that they are providing the best value in the coaching industry, but they have a lot of people who do like them and who pay. And these are kind of like, I'm thinking about one in particular. It's an intense program for men, and you go and you kind of like get beat up and belittled, and for 5 days, 6 days, I don't know how long it is, but you kind of just take it on the chin for that time, and you're supposed to come out of that, stronger and better and more committed and totally transformed. Thousands of people go through that program, and I bet some of them come out saying that was a scam, that was a waste of my money. And then, a lot of them come out saying that was the most incredible experience of my life. And what is the difference? Because when people come out saying, like that was awesome, and this guy has testimonials that are just like glowing and amazing and saying this changed my life, how can other people then say, well, it's a scam, and all he did was like, he walked around like he was the king of the place for 5 days and treated all the rest of us like we were dirt under his feet, and I got no value from this. And that's the reality. Is coaching is kind of a subjective industry. Coaching can absolutely create miracles in somebody's life, but coaches aren't doctors. They're not psychiatrists. They're not psychologists. They are coaches. And there's not a procedure that they go through that is determined by somebody else, by some governing board or body that says this is how you have to do it. And and then you can like sue them for malpractice afterwards because they're outside of the bounds of what has been defined as appropriate. Not at all. And so like where I live, there was somebody in the news recently who had, I don't know how recent it was actually, it might've been a couple years ago, but he was like, he would coach old people to, and he would like physically abuse them. And, he was he was called out, and then he was, I think there were, charges pressed against him. And in he said that was part of his coaching, that he was physically abusing these people, and, that's what they needed to get better. And so can people go can people go out of bounds? Absolutely. They can go out of bounds. But it's hard because the relationship between a coach and the person being coached is a personal relationship. And like, so we'll move into the third topic now, like what I think about regulation. There's absolutely, in my opinion, no place for some regulating body to come and like hold people accountable for like what they have to do. Because coaching, there's so many different kinds of coaching, and there's so much variety and so much creativity in the way that it's done, that any kind of regulation would be absolutely inappropriate. And it would like those coaches who can get the best results, their business and their way of operating would probably be completely constrained and diminished by some sort of regulating body that came in and told them how they had to do things. For example, one anecdote that kind of demonstrates what I'm talking about here comes from Tony Robbins. This is a story that if you've gone to any of his events, you probably heard this story. But Tony was learning NLP, neuro linguistic programming. And it was that's a method of using language and speaking to people in a way that can influence them more strongly than normal language can. It's, principles of language. And I'm actually not even an expert in, I just know a little bit about it. So that's the explanation that I can give you. But it's a way of speaking that connects with people on a deeper level and is far more persuasive and influential than just normal ways of speaking. And so he was learning it, and he was at a conference with people who were learning it, and they were mostly professional psychiatrists. And after a couple of days, he's like, "This is amazing. I want to go change the world. Let's go find some people and use what we're learning on them and help them change." And they were like, "Are you kidding me? It's day 3 of this conference. This takes 6 months to be fully certified, and you can't do anything with this until you're certified." And Tony was like, "Well, I know plenty right now that I can go start being productive with this." And they all kind of scoffed at him. He went out and he started doing it and having great results. I think he was ultimately like not licensed or something. Like he wasn't given his license to use NLP, and it didn't really matter. Like he didn't have any power to like prevent him from using what he had learned. But look at Tony Robbins now. I mean, that was many years ago in his career, and he's gone on to change the lives of so many people. But there was this governing body of, NLP that wanted to prevent him from using their particular techniques, and he's used them to great effect in many people's lives. It's just not something that you can regulate. And so there does need to be accountability. I think maybe a better approach would be for people who are going into this to just have some resources where they can go to understand the whole industry before they, maybe go and get in over their head. I had an experience one time with a coach that, I'll kind of end with this. I love this guy, and he made a big difference in my life. But I had some experiences during my, my coaching time with him that it was hard at the time. I went into a group event. I'd spent quite a bit of money on this year-long program, as well as, the event that I had attended to actually get into the program. So I spent a bunch of money on this event, and then he upsold me into this year-long program at the end of the event. And that is that's the marketing angle. So he was a great marketer. He knew exactly how to speak to somebody like me who wanted to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. It was fantastic marketing, and he ran the whole business in a way that was really appealing to me. And so I joined this year-long program. And after I'd been in it for like 4 or 5 months, I attended this event. We had, I think, 3 live events throughout the year, and then we'd have weekly calls and daily opportunities to check in and things like that, and get feedback or get some counsel on something we were doing. And so during this event, about 4 or 5 months after, I raised my hand, I asked a question, and for some reason, it was actually not him. It was his partner who was training, and I very well may have come across in the wrong way, or asked my question in a way that communicated something other than what I meant to communicate. But immediately, this partner trainer was yelling at me and swearing at me and belittling me in front of the whole group. There was a group of probably like 15 guys in there, and then the main coach jumped in and started doing that too, like just all over me and calling me names, and I think looking back, I was super confused at the time. I just kind of sat there took it and tried to understand, like, where are they coming from and why are they acting like this? And looking back, I mean, I think what they were doing was trying to kind of shock me out of an attitude that wasn't serving me, or, a perspective on things that needed to change for me to achieve what I wanted to achieve. And I think there's also a little bit of bravado in it, in, kind of showing up that way at least once during the event to, show how passionate they were about, rooting out any signs of ineffective or weak thinking. But anyway, for the rest of that program, I was a little bit shell-shocked by that. And I didn't quit, and I didn't withdraw, but I was always kind of confused by that event. And even when I asked about it, I was like, I didn't really feel like I understood the answers that the coach was giving me and like why that had happened. But I went through the program, I finished it, and it made a big difference in my life, and taught me a lot of the principles of, how to show up, how to think about myself, how to bring, the right emotions and mindset into the work that I'm doing. Taught me, more toughness, and, it made me a little bit stronger. That particular event, the whole program made me a lot stronger. And so looking back on that, like, could I have gone to the New York Times and said, hey, there was this totally fraudulent program, they took my money, and then all they did was swear at me and make me feel bad? And yeah, I could have gone to the New York Times, and I think they probably would have like loved to write that story. It's basically the story that they wrote about this other woman. But like, am I sorry that I joined that program and had that experience, and do I wish I never would have spent that money? No, it was money well spent. I still love that coach to this day. I don't think that was really the right tactic to use, but I don't expect him to be perfect. And I think, that he provided an incredible amount of value for me during the time that I was in that coaching program. And so I think that's where I'm going to leave this. Like, you can't regulate it. And at the end of the day, there are some people who are going to go into coaching. Now, not all coaches are like that by any means. There are some coaches that are much closer to like a psychiatrist, where you're going to go lay on a couch and they're just going to give you positive affirmations. I don't think that's particularly that helpful, but I also don't think that you need to be, like super in your face and beat people up either. For a coach to be effective, I don't think that has to happen. So, but there are different styles, and I just don't think it's something that you can regulate or that should be regulated, because at the end of the day, like, people are going to go into it. They are going to decide they don't like it. But what business doesn't have that kind of customer having that kind of experience? It's just, that's the universal thing, but it's not this overly predatory business. There are people who would take advantage of people in coaching, and use the model of coaching. Like, I'm the coach, I have authority over you, and therefore you can't question me. You've got to give me your money. If you don't continue to sign up for my upsells and keep enrolling in my program, then you're a failure and a dropout and a quitter. Like, yeah, there are people who are going to do that. And I don't know the solution to that, because that's not good coaching. But I don't think regulating the industry is the answer. So that's my 2 cents. Hope it's been useful. At the end of the day, coaches have to market, and they have to talk about transformation and the results that you could get in your life if you work with them. And man, if you don't come in believing that, then you've already lost half the battle. You have to come into a coaching program or coaching relationship really believing that working with this coach is going to change your life. Because if you don't believe that, it's not going to happen, no matter how good the coach is. But on the other hand, you could work with like just kind of a medium coach. But if you really believe it's going to change your life, and you do everything that they say, and maybe some things they say you don't agree with, and you don't do those things, but you're going to get better results that way than working with an excellent coach when you have zero buy-in. And so the marketing is so important. And in the coaching industry today, I think the majority of people who call themselves coaches are not, they don't have a thriving business. They're struggling. Maybe they're not charging enough. They have a hard time asking people for money. They have a hard time getting new people to talk to them. The marketing is really what is struggling for them. And so it's really important. And so the marketing piece in the personal development and coaching space is just a critical part of that business. And the better they can do it, the more people they can impact if they're a good coach. So that's my 2 cents. Hope it's been useful. And if this has been helpful for you, or if you've enjoyed this podcast, share it with other people. Give us a 5-star rating on your podcast app so that other people can find this. And we'll see you next time here on the Growth and Influence podcast. Have a great day.